Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Welcome to Inside Scoop Virginia. I'm Bettina Lawton, your host. And right now we have with us Ed Deitsch. Ed has been on the show before because he was a candidate for the House of Delegates in the 42nd District, I believe, which is in the Springfield area, give or take a few streets. And he is back with us this time in his capacity as an animal rights activist. We talked about it a little bit when he was on the show before about the work he does for the Humane Society in their animal rescue program. And tonight Ed is going to talk with us about the Humane Society, what he does in the Humane Society, and what kind of legislation they have down at the General Assembly now that they could really use your help in order to get passed. So Ed, welcome back.
Thank you, Bettina. Thank you for having me back on. It's always fun to be here.
Well, tell me a little bit about this National Disaster Animal Response Team, because you're on it and you periodically I'll see you and you're flying off someplace or you're coming back from someplace. What's that about?
Well, as the name implies, when there are natural disasters going on, we have teams that go into these areas immediately afterwards to help rescue the animals that might have been left behind. And then you have the volunteers like myself who go in and we help set up the emergency shelters so that once these animals are found, we have a place to hold them, care for them, feed them, water them, make sure they're taken care of properly. If they need medications, getting that to them until the owners can come back and claim their animals. Now, two of the major ones I was in Joplin almost immediately after the tornado devastated that area, and we took care of over 1,700 animals in that location. And I was called up into New Jersey 2 days after Sandy. So it's one of those things where we always say if you see a lot of cars running away from something, you'll probably see our trucks going in. Okay. Because we're usually hitting in where everybody else is trying to get away. But the biggest part of what we do is not that. Okay. We're very heavily involved with the criminal aspect of it. Puppy mills, dog fighting, hoarders. And we'll go in and a lot of times it's hundreds and hundreds of animals that we'll be rescuing from really bad abusive situations. And again, I'm not a field responder, so I'm not going into the building to get these animals out, but I'll be on the scene helping set the shelters up. And these animals all become part of an evidence chain. So all we can do is feed them, care for them, make sure they're healthy until such time as the criminal case is heard. Most of the time, I don't know where I'm being told to go until the very last second because we have to keep the areas confidential. Mm-hmm. And it's a criminal case, it's evidence. And I mean, recently I was down where we were taking care of in the shelter I was in 170 pit bulls that were taken out of a dogfighting scenario.
Oh, wow.
I was told it's a confidential location, and the reason for that is if people are willing to fight these animals, sometimes to their death, they're not above stealing them out of these shelters when we're putting them someplace. Ah. So we can take no pictures, we cannot post on Facebook and Twitter or anything else. When you're there, it's undisclosed location, you go in, you spend 12 to 14 hours a day in the shelter caring for the animals. You go back to the hotel, you eat dinner, you grab a quick night's sleep, and you're back again in the morning. And this is ongoing. I was just down in December. This is a case that started in September. They're still looking for volunteers to come in and out of there through the end of February as of now, while they're still waiting for this case to be held.
Oh my gosh, that's an enormous amount of work.
It's an enormous amount of work and it's an enormous amount of cost. The Humane Society has half of the dogs from this particular thing. ASPCA has the other half. Mm-hmm. Each one of them, it'll cost over $1 million to care for these animals until this case is heard.
Oh my gosh, so who pays for that?
Well, right now it's obviously paid by donations. Okay. As part of the case, when they win these criminal cases, it's part of the judgment that this money has to be paid back. Unfortunately, more times than not, the money isn't there to pay it back, so they never see it.
So they never see it. Okay. Well, let's talk about some legislation because we looked at this Humane Society as ratings by state, and apparently we get a 56% rating. Virginia does by the Humane Society. Apparently we have a good law against dog fighting, and of course we had that whole thing with Vic and the dog fighting down in the other parts of Virginia. But there's a couple of pieces of legislation that they have this year that they would like to get passed. One of them is the fox penning bill, which when Senator Marsden was on the show a while ago, he mentioned it. It didn't get through last year, is that right?
It got through the Senate last year and then was killed in committee on crossover day.
Okay, so for people who have no clue, because I certainly didn't, what is fox penning? What's the issue?
Well, the issue with fox penning, there were several issues involved. First, you're taking an area that's anywhere from 10 to maybe 50 acres, sometimes a little bit bigger. They're completely fenced in, razor wire on the top. Now, foxes themselves are very territorial. They'll stay within a 5-6 mile area their entire lives. They know where to hide, they know where to put their dens. But because of what takes place here, these foxes are brought into the pen, so they have no idea where to hide. They're let loose in the pen after a day or two, theoretically, to acclimate themselves. And then the hunting lobby comes in with their dogs, their hunting animals. They're training them supposedly on how to catch prey. So they'll release anywhere from 200 to 800 hunting dogs into this pen to try to catch the fox, and the one who gets the fox first, they get a trophy, they get a cash prize. Not very good for the fox, however, as you can imagine, with several hundred dogs chasing it in an area where it does not know where to hide.
And it can't get out, because you said the whole thing is fenced.
It not only can't get out, there have been times where, because they put food in various areas in the pen to entice the fox to go there, black bears have been known to climb in, and because of the angle of the wire, they can't get out. So there was, I think last year or the year before, they did find a carcass of a black bear in there with a lot of puncture wounds in it. The dogs got to the bear instead of to the fox.
Oh my Lord. So what would this bill do?
We're trying to ban the pens.
Ban them all together, okay.
Ban them all together. We're trying to get them shut down. There are many ways to train dogs. It doesn't have to end in the death of another creature. Plus, you're violating a lot of laws by importing wildlife. We have laws in our state that ban transporting of wildlife.
Right.
You know, the wildlife in Virginia belongs to you, it belongs to me, it belongs to every one of our citizens. But these people are taking them and bringing them into the pens, and they have to constantly restock them. So there's no way they're breeding them for these pens. They could never fill them. I think there was something about 700 foxes in the last year or two that have been brought into these pens, and there's only 40 of them in a state.
Oh, wow.
So you do the math, you realize how many of them are being killed in this process is just outright cruelty. And this is something we need to stop. Like I said, it did make it through the Senate last year. I've been at hearings with Game and Inland Fisheries. They actually, I won't use the term regulate, they license these pens, but they don't have the manpower to go out and inspect what's going on there.
So this was a bill that was introduced by Senator Marsden, it's SB 42. So what do you want people to do? We're going to talk about this, and we have two other bills we want to talk about in the next 4 minutes or so. But what do you want people to do?
What we need people to do right now, I mean, we have a Humane Lobby Day coming up Thursday, and that's going to have representatives from the ASPCA, Humane Dominion, the Humane Society of the United States, and approximately 80 citizen lobbyists like myself. None of us are paid. We go because we care. There'll be about 80 of us there, but that's not enough. What we need is for people to pick up the phone, call their delegate, call their senator, and say, this practice needs to stop, we need you to vote yes, and get SB 42 passed. And this way we have a chance to, we know it'll probably get through the Senate again, but we want to make sure it gets out of committee this time. If enough delegates are called and told this needs to pass, they tend to listen to their constituents.
Right.
So that's our hopes on this, that it will be put through this year, finally putting an end to this.
Okay. Now let me ask you about the other law that was introduced, and this one is a Bailey's law, something about dogs and puppy mills. This is your puppy mill thing, right?
That's
this
correct.
is Chap Peterson's bill.
It's Chap Peterson's bill. It's Senate Bill 228. And what Bailey's law is designed to do, puppy mills have only two audiences to sell their dogs to. They could try to do it, roadside or through the internet. If you're looking to buy a puppy and you're told, we can ship it to you from Missouri, don't worry, you don't need to see the breed, the dogs. Odds are it's a puppy mill. But if you go to a puppy store, anywhere, not just in Virginia, basically anywhere in the country, those dogs came from a puppy mill. And what Bailey's Law is designed to do is disclosure. We want the stores to tell you, we got this dog from a puppy mill. A legitimate breeder, legitimate backyard breeder, will never ever sell their dogs to a puppy store for them to sell to you.
Okay.
They want to know who their dogs are going to. Who's going to take care of this dog? I mean, with my background with animal rights and the fact that I'm also a retired veterinary technician, my wife and I recently adopted a new puppy. And we had to go through an application, a phone interview, a home check, and then sign all sorts of contracts telling them how we're going to take care of this dog before they turn this puppy over to me.
Good heavens.
That's what legitimate people will do. They want to know who has their dog, who's taking care of it. The puppy stores right now have no accountability. They're selling dogs that are sick. And you can't even, if the dog was really ill, you couldn't return it to the store after a certain amount of time. Because they're going to tell you, no, you took the dog home, it's yours. Okay. So Bailey's Law will change all of that. It'll make them more accountable. They'll have to tell you where these dogs came from. You'll have to get the full medical history of these animals. And it's almost like a lemon law on puppies that'll allow you a lot longer period of time for you to be able to bring this dog in and say, this dog is extremely ill. You need to do something. And that'll stop a lot of this. And if it makes the puppy mill people a little more miserable, oh well.
Oh well.
Yeah.
That's not,
So,
you don't care about that. That's
not in the least. Having been there, I mean, one of my dogs at home came from a puppy mill. We've had her now almost 2 years. She's just learning how to be a normal dog.
Wow.
Usually it takes 2 to 3. Fortunately, she had some other dogs in the house here and there to help her along. And she's doing really well right now. But she didn't know how to step on grass when we first got her home. It was bothering her feet. So,
Well, we've got a minute left. So let me ask about this domestic violence victim legislation, which comes from Ben Klein.
Right.
And what does it do in 30 seconds?
In 30 seconds or less, this is House Bill 972.
Okay.
Right now, pets at home, domestic animals, are considered property in the state of Virginia. So if you have a protection order that you've taken out against domestic violence, the animal is not covered. So the other half of this problem, the one who you've got the protection order against, can use that animal as leverage to get back at you, can use that animal to prevent you from leaving, prevent you from coming back in the home. If it's included in the protection order, then the police will allow you to go back in, get this animal. It's no longer can be used as a weapon against that protection order.
All right, well, Ed.